everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. It is Wednesday. Meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello, Chief Meteorologist Rob Haswell here with another great episode.
We sure hope so, because we've worked very hard on it, so we'd like it to be very good. These days, of course, there has been so much to talk about.
Yes.
There have been many things going on. Some of them are a little bit lighter, and we're going to get to some of the funnier, lighter stuff in just a bit. We always like to leave you on a high note, but obviously we're going to start off with one of the more intense, more serious topics, which would be Hurricane Melissa. It, of course, made landfall in Jamaica first, then made landfall in Cuba earlier this morning. A second landfall made landfall as a Category 3 storm, so that was after Jamaica. And then now Jamaica is having to navigate its way through all the storm's destructive aftermath, which is what you're seeing there. You're looking at some of the video from the island after the storm. And of course, it made history as it hit Jamaica as a Category 5 storm. Tens of thousands of people remain in shelters following the storm. Destructive winds just peeled the roofs off of houses, down trees, knocked out power to more than 500,000 people.
Wow.
Torrential rains and dangerous storm surges also led to flooding and landslides across the island nation. Officials say people are likely trapped, but rescue efforts can't really happen until after the conditions improve.
Jamaica's gone through what I can call one of its worst period. Our infrastructure has been severely compromised.
This is one of the worst storms to hit the region since Hurricane Gilbert back in 1988, which is getting to be some time ago now. That caused an estimated $10 billion in damage. I would expect we'll see a much higher bill from the system.
Yeah, exactly. And like they, even said, there's going to be so much that we learn in the next couple of days now that conditions are settling down a little bit.
And some of the videos of the storm surge water, incredible. And we got some video from our partners at Fox Weather too.
Yeah, take a look at some of this video that you can see there. It was taken by a woman named Connie, showing the incredible wind and rain. This was in Montego Bay as Melissa moved through. So again, you can just see
and kind of
wind.
here too.
Yeah, exactly. And look at this perspective too. I mean, you can barely see those trees.
Right, I mean, because it's just raining so hard. It's not fog or anything. It's just raining so hard you can't even see. Now, I wouldn't advise if you're in that situation to be sticking your phone out the window. It's not her best move, but couldn't help but share the video just because it really illustrates the situation. And hopefully, as things worsened, she retreated to a safer spot inside of that building. But some of the videos of the storm surge too, just like a river is coming in.
And they were projecting to the National Weather Service, by the way, storm surge potential up to 13 feet.
Right.
Like, that is a lot of water above sea level making its way onto land. And that's, you need to remember too, the potential for that 15 to 20 inches worth of rainfall with the storm system. So that really, I mean, that's a small
likely
little
exceeded
island.
that. Right, and then the landslides and everything else that was going on. So this is going to be making weather news for quite some time. We'll, of course, keep you up to speed on that. We also like to tell the human side of the weather story. And Fox 6 had a chance to speak with some Wisconsinites who are feeling the impacts of this directly. Damian Brown lives in Wisconsin, but right now he's stuck in Jamaica, where he says he arrived last week for a funeral. He was supposed to leave Monday. Airports, of course, were closed. As someone who grew up in Jamaica, he says he's not too worried about the island and how it will recover. He's just hoping for the best. We also spoke with a Milwaukee man named Mark, who says his family lives on the island. Mark says he's concerned about his mother and his grandmother.
Like, I want to be able to stretch my arm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin all the way there and give her some type of help, some type of assistance. And by me not able to do that, it makes me feel kind of like less as a man, like I'm letting my mother down.
Now, a spokesperson with the Red Cross says they're coordinating with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. They're working to figure out where they can support in the coming days and weeks. Oh, man, it's just so heartbreaking to hear from people.
Well, it's still a Category 2, right?
It is, right, exactly. So here's the latest image of Hurricane Melissa. And, just to recap for you, 2 landfalls, one yesterday in western Jamaica, and then just after 4 a.m. This morning in eastern Cuba. It's a little messier now, but it is still a decently strong storm here. So Category 2, max sustained winds 100 miles per hour, gusts up to 120, moving northeast at about 15 or 14 miles per hour. And unfortunately, there are still spots that are going to be dealing with this afternoon as well as through Thursday. At this point, the National Hurricane Center has that track making its way through parts of Bermuda, not too far from Turks and Caicos, throughout the rest of today. And then Bermuda. This may move just west of Bermuda throughout Thursday before it's back out in the Atlantic and no longer a threat for land. But there is still that boundary, that stationary front right off the coast of Florida, keeping this away from the U.S., which is some good news there. But you'd have to think, I mean, those areas in the Bahamas, it is going to be a rough afternoon and night tonight. Maybe not quite as strong as what Cuba and Jamaica experienced, but max sustained gusts or winds of 100 miles per hour, so very strong.
Yeah, still incredibly damaging, can still cause, isolated spin-ups and things like
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
And as you saw on the map, it's projected to maintain Category 1 status even on into next week.
Exactly.
This is going to be a long-lived storm with a long history of impact. And again, we'll hopefully tell you that story as we go forward. Of course, in this day and age, we get amazing video like we saw out of this hurricane. We also have this amazing video. We're seeing the damage left behind after lightning struck a home in Spring Hill, Florida on Monday. Look at that. What a bizarre looking like burn mark and hole right there. So fire crews said the bolt hit the house and then blew a hole right through the roof and right on into the attic. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The fire officials there reminding everyone, reminding you too, that lightning can pose a threat even when you're indoors.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and now to winter weather. Cameras captured this morning. Snow.
Look at that. Oh my God.
This was quite the system too.
I was hoping for a little file footage like, oh, this is archival.
Oh no.
Nope, this is just the other day.
No, but don't worry. This is in the Pacific Northwest. This is Washington State. This is one of the popular passes in Washington State. I'm going to say Snoqualmie. I hope that's right, but it's part of the Cascades. So if you're familiar with that area. Now, right now, the pass is open with no restrictions, but last night, troopers had to close it completely. Several cars spun out. It was a bit icy. Thankfully, it was only closed for about 2 hours. Now, this slightly earlier than usual snowfall is a reminder, too, that residents, starting November 1st in this area, all drivers are mandated by law to have chains on hand in their vehicles while driving through any Washington mountain passes. It's just such a far cry from where
Going to say very different culturally. It's adjustment. You just have chains. You put them on your tires.
You need them.
I grew up with that as well. Everybody had chains for their tires and their cars and things like that. It's not as common, and nor is it recommended in the Milwaukee Metro because it doesn't number on paved roads. But in places like that, it's really the only way to continue to have access.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, a whole other situation. And I gotta say, I'm not quite ready yet.
No, me either. It was beautiful, but
very pretty
out there.
We have some more snow video. This one's even farther away. It's a weather alert from Japan, the peak of Japan's Mount Fuji.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, look at that. It's a pretty picture for sure. They got the first taste of snow up on Mount Fuji. Video was posted to X. It shows a white blanket of snow covering the summit just yesterday. Well, it came just 21 days later than average. Well, it's like 3 weeks later than average. Wow. It was 15 days earlier, though, than last year's start.
Oh, there you go.
It's a very pretty picture.
Beautiful. I'm sure those residents love seeing that in the distance.
Right.
Well, and a little closer to home now, we're heading up north to Door County. 140 firefighters from 19 different fire departments had to battle a pretty intense brush fire yesterday in Door County. Now, it may have started due to an ATV catching fire in a wooded area. After about 4.5 hours, they were able to get the flames out. Approximately 60 to 70 acres burned, but thankfully no damage to buildings and no injuries. But you can kind of see cycling through some of these pictures, just the large firefighter presence.
Sure. Well, we've been relatively dry, so that unfortunately made it likely for that to spread a lot quickly, a lot more quickly than it would have otherwise. But 60 to 70 acres is a big, giant swath.
Yeah, and actually Green Bay, the stations in Green Bay were actually able to pick up from their tower cams at their stations the smoke.
The actual plume of smoke.
Yes, exactly. Door County not too far away, but it just goes to show how big it was.
And it's a beautiful part of our state for sure. And I saw the headline last night and I was like, no, not Al Johnson's.
Oh yeah, I know. Please no.
I need my Swedish pancakes. So yes, good that it's out, and we'll keep you up to
Yes.
date if there's any developments on that as well. Feel bad for the folks up in the Sturgeon Bay area, which is where that brush fire broke out. Back here at home, we have been dry, so be careful if you're maybe burning some leaves or things like that. Check your burn notices and things in your area. But dry stretch.
Yeah, more dry weather actually ahead. In fact, here in Milwaukee in southern Wisconsin, we have a very slight chance for a sprinkle, maybe late Friday night or Saturday. But other than that, we still have a primarily dry extended forecast, and that goes for a good majority of the state. Though closer to the weekend, northern Wisconsin has a slightly better chance for some rain than those of us in southern parts of the state. You can see the big rainmaker is actually south and east of us here in Wisconsin, though there is another storm system, again, towards the northwest. Montana dealing with a little bit of that rain at the surface, higher elevations, dealing with some snow. That's what brought in the snow to Washington State, as we were talking about just a few days ago. But by far the most active part of the country, again, towards the southeast. Now, this is a pretty large area with showers as well as windy conditions, and it will continue to move eastward very slowly. So unfortunately, parts of the East Coast may end up having rain on Halloween. And then to the northwest, again, you can see this cold front now draped across western parts of Montana as well as northern Idaho, bringing in more of that wintry mix as well as some snow at the higher elevations. The Pacific Northwest, another weaker low pressure system, though most of Oregon as well as Washington State beginning to dry things out a little bit. Switching gears a little bit. Parts of the southern plains experienced quite a temperature drop behind the cold front with the rain that's now east of this area. Look at these communities from Nebraska down into Texas, as well as parts of Arizona and southern New Mexico that have frost and freeze headlines. All these lighter blues, frost advisories, all the purples, freeze warnings. So the first of the season to see temperatures really dropping in those areas. And then on the opposite side, it's day 2, it may actually be day 3 of some of the heat headlines south of LA in Southern California, where those high temperatures could easily reach into the mid-90s today. So there is still some heat out there across parts of Arizona as well as Southern California, but the rest of the country, in fact, eventually I'll show you forecast highs for the country. It is significantly different than the last couple of days. A lot of spots are only looking at highs in the 50s and 60s, including down towards the south. There's also still a pretty large area towards the south of wind advisories, Kansas into Oklahoma, over to the lower Mississippi Valley. Wind advisories are still in effect through later tonight and some through tomorrow. And in some dry communities, it is also creating, more so because of that strong wind, the potential for some fire danger. So you can see southern Texas, in addition to the wind advisory, actually under a red flag warning as well. Now back to home in Wisconsin. As we filter through the next couple of days here, we really are looking at great conditions. We've had a nice stretch of weather as of late, and it does continue today as well as into Thursday. Now notice later Thursday night and on into Friday, maybe a couple of sprinkles up towards the north, out towards the west. The rest of us will likely just deal with some cloud cover throughout the rest of Friday. Then notice Friday night how we start to see some spotty showers up towards the north. They may work their way down towards the south. So all of these, precip chances right now are pretty light and slight chances through the next couple of days, or I should say Friday into Saturday. Most of us will stay dry all the way into early next week. So just pay attention to your local forecasts for trick-or-treating. Not expecting it to be a huge issue at all. In fact, I think, again, most of the state is looking pretty good for your Friday. Now, I referenced this temperature map for the country. Look at how consistent these numbers are, with the exception of the Southwest. You can see 91 for a high temperature in Phoenix, LA specifically upper 80s, but other parts of Southern California within that heat advisory could see low to mid 90s for high temperatures. And then you can see Miami in the 80s, but everybody else for the most part expecting high temperatures today in the 50s and 60s. And now here locally, we are looking again at primarily 50s, very normal for this time of year. Warmest spots will be down towards the south, a little cooler up towards the north. So high temperatures, not only right where they should be, but also staying very consistent through the next 6 days. Again, you can tell that we drop maybe just a little bit as we enter the weekend, but other than that, next week we're right back to these middle 50s. And even looking ahead, we're looking to stay with some of this above average warmth. Now, average for today is 56. So we're right where we should be, and we should maintain these 50s even into next month.
Yeah, it looks like even the middle of next month might be on the milder side.
Pretty incredible.
Again, that average is trending downward, like you said, but I'll take it.
I'll take 50s. This is beautiful.
Yeah, slow moving into the next season. I'm good with that. Maybe it'll extend the boating season. If you don't have a boat but you'd like a piece of one, I've got a story for you. It's, of course, the famed boat Milwaukee just can't seem to get enough of, Deep Thought. It's back on the radar, or maybe sonar it should be when we're talking boats, right? If you remember, the boat named Deep Thought washed ashore in Milwaukee's lakefront in October last year, sat there stuck in the sand for like 7 months. In that time, it basically became an unofficial landmark, like a celebrity in Milwaukee. It even got a pin on Google Maps. All City Towing finally freed it in May. The crew that removed it is also now hoping to give it back to the people in the community. Owner Jeff Pillar says they've spent the past few months kind of cutting this boat up into pieces to give to local organizations and charities.
Everyone that worked on it that day, we've just had this unrealized connection to the entire saga. Couldn't let it go somewhere else and have the story finish somewhere else. We started it, we definitely had to finish it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Anyone who wants a piece of Deep Thought apparently can have one. All you have to do is just stop by All City Towing. They're right outside the airport near 13th and Grange. I think there's going to be a lot of folks that want a piece of that boat.
Yeah. I completely agree, just for the story itself, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Amazing.
All right.
Okay, well, we were talking about how consistent our temperatures are. How about this time last year?
It was
a little toasty.
Yeah.
It was, of course, a nice day today, but guess what? This time last year, yes, on this day in 2024, we set a record high temperature for the day at 81 degrees. So this is video from our station from last year of people in the water
surfing
of Lake Michigan. They're out there at the beach. They're taking advantage of the sunshine. Many folks were seen enjoying strolls by the lake, going for bike rides, and as you can see there, some actually jumped into the lake with their furry friends. So there you go.
Yeah, take the pup
Felt
for a little
like summer.
splash. I don't think it's quite beach weather today, not record setting, but it is very pretty from the top of the modern building. Looking good out there, MKE. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We're going to talk about air pressure and why it's so vital to hurricane development.
everybody to Wisconsin Weather Experts.
That's right. It is a beautiful day. Our air pressure is quite nice, and air pressure is a big part of every day's forecast, but it can be a very important part of stormy weather. We're going to talk a bit about how it impacts hurricanes in a minute. But first, we want to learn the word of the day, which has a lot to do with air pressure too.
Well, guys, welcome back to our Wisconsin Weather Experts Dictionary. Here is our next word of the day. I'm going to give you a little time to at least look. You got about 3 seconds before the answer is revealed here. Barometer. Barometer is our next word of the day that we're going to add in our dictionary. Now, what is a barometer? You hear that all the time. Well, here is a nice picture of a barometer, but it actually is a scientific instrument that is used to measure atmospheric pressure. So what is atmospheric pressure? Well, you've heard of highs or high pressure, and you've heard of lows associated with the low pressure. Low pressures usually bring our rainy and even possibly snowy weather, versus a high pressure is whenever we get our best weather that gives us at least those sunny days that we can look forward to in the summer. So next time you hear barometer, you now know what it is. It measures the atmospheric pressure, so it measures whether we have a high pressure or a low pressure.
There you go. Important to know the name of the instrument that took these readings. Now, of course, it looked nothing like that. A far more sophisticated version of a barometer and other instruments were used to determine a record. Well, top 3 all-time air pressure for Melissa.
Yeah, you can tell Melissa's air pressure at landfall yesterday when it impacted Jamaica was 892, and that MB is millibars. So that's the measurement that we use for air pressure. It's actually tied with the Labor Day storm. So back before, that was 1935, we actually started, or the National Hurricane Center started naming storms. But again, tied for 3rd place for the strongest Atlantic hurricane when it comes to air pressure. And Rob, air pressure is really important, Holly talked about the high pressures and the low pressures, but for hurricanes specifically, it kind of determines how strong that hurricane is, especially when it comes to the wind.
Yeah, the lower that reading, and millibars is a little, if I can go off on a tangent.
Yes, please.
Millibars is something that is used predominantly in other countries and predominantly for hurricane forecasting. It's not as commonly known here. Yeah. It's just a measurement of pressure in the same way that we use inches of mercury. So on our daily currents, you'll likely see the pressure says in inches, right? And that's an older version of how we take the measurements. Millibar, a little bit more of a refined process used in a lot of countries that follow the metric system, Canada, Europe, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a terminology that maybe you're not familiar with, but essentially it's the same thing as inches of mercury. So the lower the number, the more significant that low pressure. And as you were saying, it's key to a hurricane strengthening because as Holly was pointing out, you've got high pressure and low pressure. And when the low is deep like that, and we say deep because it kind of looks like a pit when you look at it on a map from above, right? So when it's very low pressure reading like that, the air from around it is rushing to that center of low pressure. The lower, the more significantly deep that low is, the more the air is rushing to that center, and that's what's whipping up those wind speeds.
Right, exactly. It just creates a bigger pressure gradient, which then, like Rob said, allows the wind to be higher. It allows the storm surge to be worse. So really, it all kind of stems the impacts around a hurricane around how low that pressure is in general. So we look at a lot of factors, but the air pressure is really important.
It's really key because, again, it whips up the wind. The other thing it's tied to is storm surge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the best analogy I ever heard when I was back in meteorology school was a hurricane is essentially acting like a giant atmospheric straw. If you want to think of the eye of the hurricane is the center of that straw in a way. It's not a super accurate way to do it. But that low pressure is sucking up the water surface. I mean, literally lifting that water up and sucking it up into that low pressure. So the lower the pressure reading, the more suction, the more pull it has on the surface of the water. And then as it pulls it up and moves it in and it hits landfall, you've got that, what did you say, 13-foot wall of water?
Yep.
Shouldn't say it that way either. It's a 13-foot increase on the sea level. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. But yeah, those two key ingredients there, not only the wind speed, huge when measuring a hurricane, but also the storm surge. So that's why we focus a lot on atmospheric pressure when it comes to hurricanes.
Absolutely. Big science lesson for you there.
Right. Get out the straw and try it at home.
We have just a tiny little bit more on WWE. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We're still talking about hurricanes back here.
We spent the whole commercial break talking about hurricanes because apparently they don't give us enough time to talk about the weather. We're likely to see a lot more information come out of Jamaica. It is going to take some time. The infrastructure there is severely impacted. When we know, we'll pass it along to you.
Absolutely. And again, that storm's still impacting the Bahamas later on today. So we'll have plenty more coming up tomorrow on Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local. We'll see you then.
Take care.